Hi, I am Coach Helen at 21 Boom, bringing you the Shoulder Mobility Seminar. And I want to hear the pieces of this seminar that I'm going to go through today. I have my one of our members here, Peggy, who I may ask to be an assistant in some of this for demonstration today. The pieces that I'm going to go through today are our general philosophy, the services that we provide to fulfill that philosophy, what's required for self-maintenance for everyone to do, how we do shoulder assessments, and what the action plan is based on the assessments that we do. So I do not expect to fix anyone's shoulder mobility in this seminar today, whether it's Peggy that's here in person or whether it's anybody watching this video. What I'm hoping to give to you today is the tools that you need to figure out what you need to do for yourself, so that in that 10 minutes a day that we want you to spend on self-maintenance, you can figure out what to do. And then if you can't figure out what to do on your own, you know who to come see to help you through it. All right, so first off, we choose to, as far as philosophy goes, we choose to focus on functional movement for the majority of our programs versus isolation movement. Why? Because in general, we want you to train the way you do in everyday life. However, we are talking shoulder mobility or shoulder issues, I'll say today. So when you're doing rehab to fix a shoulder problem or prehab to prevent a shoulder problem, that's where you may want to use these isolation movements. The body learns to compensate. So if your body has learned to compensate to cover up an issue, we may need to use these isolation type movements to help you bring back normal function in your functional movements. All right. We have a strategic training program versus a random training program. What does that mean? Our training programs are planned out in advance. They build one upon another. We have progress built into the system so that you will get stronger and more flexible and more mobile as you go. Our group program starts over every 6 months. So if you're recording your results, you should notice from the beginning of the month to the end of the month progress, but you should really start to notice results when you're going from every 6 months and repeating those workouts over again. All right, we recommend strength and conditioning 2 to 3 days per week. That is via our secret sauce group programming or our private training program, wherever you happen to be. We recommend some kind of steady state cardio 3+ days a week for 20 minutes or more. And this is the important part about what we're talking about today, the 10 minutes a day of human self-maintenance. All right, and that's where the shoulder mobility comes in. Now, if you don't have any issues, and who doesn't have any issues, right? If you don't have any movement issues, or if you don't have any aches and pains, then maybe you don't need that 10 minutes a day. But if you do have those issues, then you should be doing special exercises to help make those issues better in that 10 minutes. Will we help you during our group classes? Absolutely. Will we modify things to make them specific to you as much as possible? Absolutely. But you take a group program or a group class with 6 people in it, and I can't go around to each individual person, talk to them about their shoulder problems, and give them a stretch to do in the warm-up. Right? There's just not enough time. Nobody wants to stand around and listen to us correct 5 other people. Of course, they want their personal coaching, but they don't want to stand around while we coach everyone else. Speaking of which, I'm going to be talking for a minute, Peggy, so you might want to have a seat. Up to you. So once you do identify, or once you watch this seminar, once you follow along with the seminar, and you know how to take care of your own issues, then you should spend 10 minutes a day doing it. I love to do it first thing in the morning. That way I know it gets done. If I wait until the end of the day, I won't do it. I'm too tired. And the other thing is, how long do you do that 10 minutes a day for? Well, sorry, forever. Why? Because your issues are going to change. When you fix one issue, something else is bound to pop up for most people. I mean, maybe not if you're, a young, healthy athlete, but for most of us, by the time you fix one issue, maybe it's your shoulder, then, oh, gee, my hip is a little achy, or, oh, gee, my knee is a little achy. So 10 minutes a day, whatever you're feeling that day is what you should be working on. All right. So our services, and sorry, I can talk about this stuff forever, so I'm going to try to get through it as quickly as possible. We have a 21 milestone system. That's one of the most important services that we offer, is progressing you through those milestones. If you don't know what I'm talking about and you're a member of ours, get on our website, members only section, on demand, and look at the milestones. If you're not a member and you want to find out about what these 21 milestones are, then give us a call for a free consultation. We'll explain it to you in detail. If you're milestone 1 through 9, you should be in our private training program. If you're milestone 10 or above, you should be in our group performance program. There are some exceptions to those two rules. Again, if you're not a member, give us a call. We'll figure out where you should be. For everyone, regardless of what milestone you're on, we have other services that we offer you. Again, the on-demand videos on our website, our app, which has some videos that you can follow along on our strategic movement sessions. We have yoga sessions, meditation sessions, and our live connect sessions they're like group accountability calls. All right, so get on those apps, look on our schedule, take a look at what all that stuff is. All right, so let's get back to this 10 minutes a day theory for those of us that have these aches and pains, that specifically the shoulder mobility that we're talking about today. First off, we want to assess what the problem is. Then we want to use mobility to make the joint feel better, to make the joint move better. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about all these things today. I know the name of this seminar is mobility because that's what people think they need, but it's not necessarily the whole story. So, assessment, mobility. Stability is having control of the joint. Strength is how much load you can move with the joint. Inhibition of a muscle group means that the muscle doesn't work. It means it's like broken or turned off. And we want to use your brain to help you turn it on, where you need to actually think about turning on specific muscle groups sometimes. Right? So that strength and inhibition kind of go along together, because some people think that they're weak when really the muscle isn't weak. It's just kind of broken. Doesn't work the way it should. Okay, then there's muscular endurance. Muscular endurance is the ability to keep going. So for example, maybe you can lift a really heavy weight overhead 1 or 2 times, but you can't lift a light weight more than 5 times. Muscular endurance is the ability to keep moving. Okay, and then flexibility. So flexibility is basically range of motion about a joint and the length of the muscles to provide that range of motion. So when most people think of shoulder mobility, they may not know it, but what they really need is all of those things. All right, so now I'm going to get you all moving. Peggy that's here with me in person, anybody that's watching this, feel free to follow along. We're going to talk about each of those steps. Assessment first. So the assessment that you'll find in our milestone system for shoulder mobility, the assessment that you'll find on our on-demand resources, and lots of videos about how to correct this position are on our on-demand resources. Okay, it's about shoulder rotation. I want you to go about this very gently because you're not warmed up. I would like you to, and by the way, we didn't make this stuff up. We follow 5 systems that are world-renowned exercise science specialists that we get all of these things from. This rotation, if you go and look up a rotation shoulder test, you'll find it described 15 different ways. It's all basically the same stuff. Okay, I would like you to gently try to take your hands together behind you. I'm going to go open hand. Some people go closed hand. Do not try to force it and go back and forth, side to side. Okay, now what many of you will notice is that one side, both on me and on some of you, that one side is tighter than the other. Okay, that's perfectly natural. If it's excessive, then we want to fix it. All right, so you can stop with that, take a break. So here's the thing that a lot of people don't realize. You should not be able to touch your hands behind your back. Yep, I know I can, and I know why. And I'm working on it. Right? I've been working on it for a long time. If you can touch your fingertips behind your back, it basically means there's something weak in your shoulder. You should have a space of about 2 inches, depending on the size of the person. You should have a little space between your hands, okay, behind you. If you can touch your fingertips behind you, it means that there's some weakness in your shoulder complex that we need to work with. Now, some people just have bigger joints than others. What's even more important than how close your hands are is how similar they are to each other. Okay, why? Because we want your shoulders to be the same or as close to each other as possible to make you injury resilient. Okay, so that's assessment 1. Again, all the fixes for that are on our website, in our members only section. Go there. We're going to move on to assessment 2. Assessment 2 is your overhead reach. Can you reach up and straighten your elbows and get them close to your head? Okay, and go ahead and bring those down. So can you do it without, I'm always cold, so I always have the jacket on over my Move Forward shirt. Can you do that without, if I fix my zipper, without arching your back? So in other words, you want to keep your abs tight and keep your body all lined up. All right, Peggy, can I ask you to come over in front of the camera for me? And can you turn to face the camera and do that again? And you'll notice, although Peggy, this is very slight on Peggy, she has just a little bend here, little tiny bend, more on this side than the other side in the elbows. But that's not terrible. Okay, go ahead and lower that down. And Peggy, can you reach back up one more time? I just want to take a look from the side. So now, and go ahead and lower them down. Again, pretty good, but because I'm going to use you as my assistant on this, I'm going to be really picky with you. All right, so anytime you bring your hands up overhead, we want you to tighten up your abs. Now, this is not going to happen by accident, right? Getting good shoulder mobility is not going to happen by accident. So what do I mean by tighten up your abs? Picture a human skeleton. You've got your hip bones here. You've got your rib cage here. We want to bring your ribs toward your hip bones. You'll feel your abs tighten up when you do that. And then slowly raise those arms up. And you'll notice that if your abs are super tight and you're lifting those arms up, they might not go as high. Very good, Peggy. Go ahead and lower down. So anytime you are doing anything overhead, whether it's pulling or pressing, tighten up those abs. Even if it's a stretch, tighten up those abs and you'll get more of a stretch out of the shoulders, because we want the shoulders to be moving, not the rib cage and the thoracic spine. Okay? All right. So that is the overhead reach assessment. Can you straighten your arms? What does that look like? The other assessment that we're going to use for today is the scapular mobility assessment. So when you reach your arms up, can you shrug up and down without bending the elbows? Okay, and so again, I'm going to use Peggy as an example. Peggy, can you step up here and hang on just a second. Let me change something on the camera settings so that you can see yourself a little bit better. All right, and now can you reach up and do that again and just watch what's happening here. Okay, and can you see how your elbows want to bend just a little bit as you're coming down? Okay, so we want to try to minimize that to get your shoulder blades moving independently of your biceps. Okay, let's try one, and if you would step out of the camera here so I can come back in. You know, we're still being a little COVID careful, we'll say. All right, so here's another way to assess that ability to move your shoulder blades, and this one is under load. Can you come down into a plank and squeeze and separate your shoulders without moving your elbows? So just the shoulder blades moving. And yes, Peggy can, but I know, all right, great job, Peggy, you can stop and take a break. But I know that I regularly ask people to do that, and a lot of people can't do that. So that's a great thing to work on. Sometimes the muscles all around your shoulder blades kind of get stuck, and that's what causes that, and basic lack of movement throughout, you know, just daily living, sitting at a computer, driving, whatever. The muscles that hold the shoulder blades in place kind of get stuck and don't allow you to move those shoulder blades without the biceps. So we want to make sure that you can move them independently of each other. All right, 3 assessments. So let's say that you do one of those assessments and you can't straighten your elbows overhead, or your hands when you go back are not anywhere close to each other. Then what are we going to do about it? Well, the first one I already mentioned a little bit. We're going to make you work harder for it. So let's go back to that first one, the rotation, like this. And I talked about tightening up the abs, bringing the rib cage slightly toward the hips. Let's do that assessment, keeping the abs tight, and see what happens to that reach. If you could reach before without the abs being tight, now can you still reach when you're tightening them? And I think that Peggy is seeing that she could touch on that one side if her abs weren't tight, but now she knows that she was moving her rib cage and her spine instead of the shoulders. So that one shoulder is a little tight when before she didn't think it was. All right, so that's number 1, work harder for it. Okay, if we take, and Peggy, there are some bands right there hanging on the foam roller. Grab one of the green ones. It doesn't matter which green one. If you're doing that rotation stretch or rotation assessment that we just did right there, and you're finding that you can't quite get your hands close to each other, that one side is very different from the other, here's a great stretch that I love to do for that. And we want to keep the core tight when you do this. Okay, so you're going to hold a band right in the middle, a light band. You're going to throw it over your shoulder, grab the 2 ends, and then pull down hard and pull up gently. Pull down hard and pull up gently, all while keeping your core tight. Okay, so what is this doing? It's moving the shoulder through a range of motion. It's teaching you to keep your core tight while you're moving your shoulders. And you're also working the muscles because you're stretching that band out as you go. All right, and let's switch sides for that. If you don't have a band, first of all, everyone should have a band. If you don't have a band, then you can use a towel for this. But I really like a band better because you get a little bit more work out of the shoulders as you're stretching them. All right, so remember, tighten up the abs, hands close together, pull down hard, and up gently. And you can probably feel when you pull up that that's a little, well, sticky. Let's say it's sticky, right? That's a weird little rotator cuff muscle that you're stretching when you pull up, and that's why I want you to be gentle with it. Anything to do with the rotator cuff, we want to be gentle. All right, so that's an example of core control. Just working harder. Oh, now I'm finally starting to get warm. Working harder to get the shoulders to move the way we want them to move. All right, next is mobility. So this is basically just, for the most part, getting the joint to move better. And the most common way of getting the joint to move better is what I call touch therapy. Okay, we're going to do a little assessment with this. Let's pick the assessment, either the rotation, the overhead reach, or the scapular mobility. Pick one of those assessments, whichever one you feel you needed help with the most. Whichever shoulder feels the tightest, I want you to rub the tight shoulder, rub the tight arm. So just rub it all over, like kind of dig in, maybe squeeze the tight parts a little bit. Okay, and it doesn't take much. And now do that again. And notice the difference you feel between your two arms. Right? I can see in Peggy. Peggy, can you come on over this way to make sure that people can see? Can you reach up? Can you now see how her right arm is actually longer than her left? Before they were the same length. So that's like a real quick, before you do any exercise, do something to, sorry, can't think of another way to put it right now, but touch yourself. Do something, some way to touch yourself. Okay, now we have some other ways that might work better to touch yourself than with your hand. You can use a ball. You can use a foam roller. If it's your legs, your hips, you can use a stick. I'm going to give Peggy here the tennis ball because that's the softer one. It doesn't hurt quite as much. I have the lacrosse ball. I am guessing that where Peggy needs a little bit of touch therapy is here on the front of the chest, and a lot of people are tight there. So here's what I would like you to do. Go find a corner, whether it's a doorway or just a corner in your house or in your office. Put that ball on the wall and roll it around a little by leaning onto the wall. Okay, kind of like that. All right, so I don't have a wall right here in view of the camera that I can do this on, but you want to spend about, and maybe if that wall is too much, you can just use your hand like this. All right, but just moving that ball all around in that pec area, and then before you do the other side, again, reach up and reassess, or do the rotation and reassess. We want to know if that worked. Right? We assess, then we try to fix, then we reassess. If it worked, great, do more of it. If it didn't work, don't do it again. Don't waste your time. Right? And that's what, that's why we call this facility that we're in the movement lab, because we experiment on humans here. We assess, we find issues, we experiment to see what needs to be done to fix the issue, and then we retest to see if we fixed it or not. If it worked, do more of it, put it in your routine, that 10 minutes a day. So two things about this. Well, a couple of things about this. Whoa, throwing the ball at the camera. You will get immediate benefit from doing this. Okay, your arms will, your shoulders will immediately move better. Doing it right before a workout is great. Doing it right before you go for a run, make your arms move better, is great. If you do it 14 to 21 days in a row, you will make a more permanent, lasting change. Doing this with the ball 3 days a week will not make a permanent, lasting change. It's got to be every day for at least 2 weeks. Okay, and it doesn't take long. This might be 1 minute on each arm out of your 10 minutes a day that you spend, right? That's 2 minutes a day. I think you can all manage 2 minutes a day. So for some of you, maybe you put that ball on your pec and that worked. That's great. For others, you were like, no. Try it on the outside of the arm. Try it right here, leaning up against a wall in the back of the armpit. Try it between the shoulder blades and the spine, moving all the way down. One of the most potent examples of touch therapy is getting that ball between your shoulder blade and your spine. Pick up your butt. This really hurts, by the way. And move the arm around. Yep, we're going to take a minute to try that one. And for this stuff, you can use a tennis ball. You can use I have a lacrosse ball here. It's a bit harder. You can use a dog toy. You can use anything that won't puncture your skin, but is firm enough to move around on. Okay, so again, we just did do one arm and then reassess and see if it worked. I'm waiting to see Peggy's reassessment. What do you think, Peggy? Did that one make a difference? Yeah. So that one's very potent for a lot of people. All right, but that's basically touch therapy. The foam roller is a little bit more gentle than the ball. Experiment, find the spots on your body that work, that make your assessments better. All right, so that, another good spot is in here, the lats, underneath the arm to hit with that ball or that touch therapy. Okay, I'm going to do one more on the touch therapy thing, because this is what people think of as mobility. We do these wake-up drills, right? And the wake-up drills that we do in class have a specific goal. For example, the diaphragm here and the rib cage here. We're loosening the fascia and the muscles to help you breathe better. But here's the assessment I want you to do. Do that reach. Then we're going to, keeping the abs tight. Then we're going to do that wake-up drill. When you do the sternum, make sure you get all the way up into the collarbones. And then when you come down along the rib cage, don't just dig under the rib cage, but get like on top of the rib cage too, like all in here. And loosening up the fascia and all those muscles in there, my guess is now, for those of you who think you have shoulder mobility issues, when you reach in, it's easier to keep your abs tight. Is that what you're noticing, Peggy? Yeah, it's easier to stay tight because you don't have to fight against all that tightness through your midsection. So these wake-up drills all have two purposes, really. It's the neurological purpose of, the glute wake-up drill is here, the core wake-up drill is here, but this is still loosening up your inner thighs. And this is still making your neck and your head move better, right? So think of those purposes too when you do those wake-up drills. All right, so that's basically mobility. The next step in the process is stability. What is unstable? So what do we mean by that? Many people, for example, can press a weight up, but if they try to hold it up there, it's all kinds of wobbly like this. Or if they try to walk with a weight overhead, they can't keep it still. Okay, another mobility focus is a plank or a shoulder tap, does your arm shake or wobble when you do these single arm supports? And can you do that shoulder tap nice and slowly without too much hip shift side to side? Okay, so these are like stability assessments. Most people have some stability issues that they need to work on. Peggy, stop and take a break for that. I'm going to have you working a little bit harder. All right, so usually for people with shoulder issues, the stability is lacking in two places. The lats underneath your arms and the rotator cuff in the back of the shoulder. Now that's not always the case. Sometimes it's pecs, sometimes it's traps, but usually it's lats or the backs of the shoulders. And so here's a good exercise that I want you all to try for stability. Just thinking about which way I want to do this. Okay, I'm going to show you two options. I want Peggy to do the option that I'm going to show with the band because I think that one's going to be better for her. The half-kneeling windmill, when done in a Turkish get-up, is done with that front foot out to the side like this, and the hand comes down and back up. Okay, that is great for stability. You can even see my arm shaking a little bit, and I do a ton of this type of stuff, and this is a really lightweight for me. All right. When you're doing stability training, though, the closer you can get your hand to your leg, you see how I have to move slower to make that happen. This is not the way we would do a Turkish get-up, but this is harder, so it's tougher on the shoulder. Gradually work from a wide stance to bringing that hand and foot closer to each other. So for some of you, the weight will work the stability better. Another version of that same exercise can be done with a band, where you put the front foot on the band and hold on to the band with the other hand. You need to keep pressing the front foot down. Peggy, don't double that up, just use half of it. You need to keep pressing the front foot down when you do this, because if you don't, that band is going to come out from under your foot and smack you in the face. Okay, so then you just want to pull up and back. No, not so much. Peggy asked if it matters which way your hand is facing, and not so much. So even though you might not feel like this is a stability exercise, it's working the stability muscles in the back of your shoulders. Peggy, I bet you can feel that. Okay, now I want you to notice, here's an important thing to assess stability type and strength type movements. Notice how that fell on that arm, whether you're using the weight or the band. And then switch sides. Remember to push that foot down into the band so it doesn't smack you in the face. Pull up and back. And notice if one side is much harder than the other, or even just if one side feels different than the other. Peggy, keep that elbow straight. All right, and if you notice one side feels very different than the other, or one side is stronger than the other, then it means that this is something that you should do. If you go to do this and you're like, no, this is pretty easy and both arms seem the same, then don't include it in that 10 minutes a day. All right, so that's just one example of stability exercises. Following this seminar, probably within the next couple days, I am going to have a whole list of stability type exercises up on the on-demand on the website that you can go, and it'll be under the Shoulder Mobility Seminar Deep Dive will be the name of the document. And you know, in this hour that I have here, I can't go through all of the exercises. I could spend an hour just on shoulder stability exercises. All right, but again, it's assess. Does one side feel different than the other? And now that you've done that, try that overhead reach again. And does it feel stronger than it did before? More stable? Okay, Peggy's saying yes. So that's another way that you can assess it. And now do the rotation. And does that feel stronger and more stable? And especially this one is really, the stability is really important for those people that can touch their fingers close together. What's that? Right, because now those muscles are active, and that's what we should have, right? And even the side that you could easily touch before, now you can't because we pumped those muscles up. And like I said in the beginning, you shouldn't be able to touch your fingertips. If you can, it shows weakness. So that tells me that right there would be a great exercise for you. I know, it's weird, isn't it? You're like, how did that happen? That tells me that exercise would be great for you to do right before any shoulder workouts. Why? Because you just made your shoulders injury resilient. They're now tight, the muscles are active and ready to go. Before, when you could touch your fingertips, the muscles weren't active, they weren't ready. They were like dormant. Make sense? Yes. All right, so that's stability. Strength, and endurance and inhibited muscles. All of these things kind of go together. Strength is how much load you can move once. Endurance is how many times can you do it. Inhibited means those muscles that are broken. Okay, I'm going to show you a little routine that might help with any of those things, strength, endurance, and inhibition. All right, take your band, and if you don't have a band, for some of you, you can just follow along with this, and even without a band, you'll feel it. Get your hands a good 2 to 3 feet away from each other on that band, and pull out, straight elbows, touch the middle of your chest, and back in. Peggy, touch a little bit lower. Good. All right, and we want 7 reps there. I wasn't counting, but approximately 7. And then we're going to go one hand high, one hand low. Now, if you're not feeling this, it means that those muscles are inhibited, and you need to actively use your brain to squeeze your shoulder blades together. So switch sides, and if you don't feel the shoulder blades coming together, then squeeze them together as you pull back. I don't know about you, Peggy, but my shoulders are starting to burn. All right, so if you need to stop and take a break, stop and take a break in between. All right, next we're going to go up overhead into a field goal position, 90 degrees at the elbows. And if you have any really bad shoulder issues, pull down in front. If your shoulder issues are manageable and you're able to do everyday things, then pull down and back. But touch to the back of your shoulders. Don't try to go behind your shoulders. Okay, and this is like using the triceps. You might feel something kind of jerky and shaky on the way up. Like I think I see with Peggy, like it's kind of hard to control that up. That means whenever you feel that shakiness, it means that this is something that you should do more often until you can smooth that out. That'll take about 2 to 3 weeks to smooth out. Okay, shoulders burning. All right, next. Get a little bit of tension on that band. Yeah, we're still going, Peggy. Get a little bit of tension on that band and go over and back. Whew. Maybe I shouldn't have done a big shoulder workout right before doing this seminar because I'm feeling this today. All right, and one more. This next one is rotator cuff, so we want you to go a little bit easier on it, okay? Don't force it. It's external rotation. Keep your elbows in, palms up, and gently pull outward. Now you'll see that my hands go all the way out to the sides. That should not happen. Normal range of motion is about 30 to 45 degrees. Okay, if you can go 90 degrees like I can, again, it means you need to work on shoulder strength. It's a never-ending battle for me. Peggy, can you come over a little closer to the camera? You have really good range of motion on this. You can see how it's challenging for her, but she can get out to about 30 or 40 degrees, and that's her end point. So that's really good that your range of motion is good, although it does look like you need to work on the strength a little bit. Yeah. Yep, feeling it here? Yeah, and that's the other thing. If you do this and you feel a stretch across your chest, do it more often, even if it's easy in the shoulders. If this stretches your chest or your front of your shoulders, that's a flexibility issue that you need to work on. All right, so those band exercises right there, for any one given person, those might be strength. It might be challenging. It might be endurance. Maybe you can do it a couple times, but you can't do it 7, 8, 9, 10 times. It may be inhibition. Maybe you didn't feel the muscles working and you had to actively squeeze your shoulder blades together to get them to work. All right, I'm going to go on one more exercise for this inhibition. Here's what I'd like y'all to try. I'm curious about how Peggy will do with this. Okay, so there's a couple different versions of this exercise. But try coming down to the floor with your arms out to the side, and then one arm at a time, pick the arm up and try to hold, thumb pointing up at the ceiling, try to hold for 5 seconds, and back down. And do that 3 times in a row on each side. Hold for 5 seconds and back down. And notice what muscles you feel working as you do it. Notice what you feel working. Notice what you feel stretching. 3 times on each side. Oh, I just realized that the arm I was lifting was away from the camera. So thumb pointing up. About 5 seconds and down. Notice what muscles you feel working. And if you feel anything stretching. All right, so Peggy, what muscles are you feeling working with that?
So I'm in the front and then my biceps, or my triceps rather, triceps.
Okay, all right. All right, so that's exactly what I thought would happen with Peggy. Now we're going to fix it. Because what muscles should be working in order to do that? Yeah, the muscles between and around your shoulder blades. So what I want you to try this time, so in case you didn't hear Peggy, she said that what she was feeling was her trap and her tricep. So what I want you to do this time is squeeze your shoulder blades together. While holding your shoulder blades together, lift that arm up and hold. Feels totally different, right? And I bet you don't feel it in the tricep anymore. And down. So squeeze the shoulder blades and lift and down. And squeeze the shoulder blades and lift and down. And do the other side a couple times. Squeeze the shoulder blades and lift and down. So that's an example of what's called inhibition. Peggy obviously has muscles between her shoulder blades, but her body did not automatically use them when it should have. Now that she is focused on using the right muscles, the wrong muscles, the triceps, aren't kicking in and trying to help.
It also keeps me out of my lower back though.
So if you were feeling your lower back doing that, it's about keeping your abs tight. Yeah, which is very hard in that position. All right. So where are we at on time? We have one more thing to talk about, and that is flexibility. So, and I talked to Peggy a little bit about this example that I wanted to use, this example exercise. Peggy, when you try this, I want you to go really gentle on it. Okay? So I don't have a great example here. But let's say that this foam roller I have set up is a wall. I want you to go up to a wall, and you can do this standing. Press your palm and your fingers up against a wall, and then gently turn your chest away while squeezing your shoulder blades together. Okay, make sure you're squeezing your shoulder blades together as you turn. And you'll feel that stretch, chest, bicep, maybe through your side, through your ribs. And you should feel like those muscles between your shoulder blades are working a little bit for it. Your hand should be fingers spread wide and palm pushed hard into the wall. Okay, then try with the fingers pointing back behind you and turn. It'll be a little bit different. And then try with your fingertips totally pointed down up against the wall and turn. Peggy, lower that arm a little bit. We want it about shoulder height. Good. And turn. Okay, now after doing that on one side and getting chalk all over, Peggy used the chalk wall, then do that reach up test again. And notice if that arm is now longer than the other one once again. And boom, Peggy got about an inch or maybe inch and a half on that. Okay, so go gentle on that other side. We know that that other side might be the issue. All right, so again, it's up against a wall like this. Your hands should be at 90 degrees. My forearms are tight, so that's hard for me to do without the wall. Turn your body. Go back and forth a couple times. Then do fingertips pointing back. And turn your body. Go back and forth a couple times. Then turn your fingertips down. And turn. Okay, so that's one of my favorites that I found. Yep, Peggy's even again. That's one of my favorite stretches that I found really helps a lot of people with shoulder issues. There are so many. I could spend a whole hour on any one of these topics. I could spend an hour on assessment. I could spend an hour on core control, an hour on mobility, an hour on stability, an hour on strength, an hour on flexibility. All right, so again, there will be a document on our on-demand on our website that accompanies this that has some ideas for you to experiment with. Remember that when you experiment, assess, can you reach up? Can you rotate? Can you move your shoulder blades? Try something. Try one of these exercises, and then go back and do that assessment again. Did it get better? If it got better, do the exercise more. If it didn't get better, don't do it. It's a waste of time. All right, now that we've been through all this, hopefully you can understand why we can't do all of this individualized for every person in a group class. We individualize a lot in our group classes. However, everybody's got different issues. My shoulder issues are very different from Peggy's shoulder issues, or different from Christine's shoulder issues who are coming in. Yes, Christine, I'm talking to the camera. So spend that 10 minutes a day fixing whatever you need to fix. Give us a call if you need a consultation. All right, and that's a wrap for today.